All right, Rob, let's go back to the NBA. Of course, this weekend, right, Rob G, is the weekend that they are putting players into the Hall of Fame. And so Pat Riley did a conference call today with reporters, and he talked about the great Dwyane Wade. And here's what he said. Rob G?
Well, he said a lot. Very, he was very appreciative of everything Dwyane Wade did in Miami. But, the media can be, you guys members of the media, we don't want to hear about how great Dwyane Wade is. We want to get some little controversy. So somebody asked him, is Dwyane Wade the greatest player in Miami Heat history? Pat Riley responded, quote, you can argue whether or not LeBron or Dwyane were better as Heat players, but Dwyane is the greatest player ever who put on a uniform with us. LeBron was here for 4 years, gave us a tremendous lift, and helped Dwyane achieve what he wanted to achieve. But Dwyane is the greatest player that has ever played for the Heat, and that's not an insult to LeBron. That's because of his longevity and the short term that LeBron was here.
All right, Rob, look, I think that Pat Riley is essentially right. Dwyane Wade is Mr. Heat, Mr. Miami, whatever you want to call
Mr. Heat Miser? Is that what you said? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. A lot of our audience has no idea what you're talking about.
But you
Mr.
know, Rob G, you know what that is?
I have no idea.
Christmas
Alex,
special.
no.
It was a fantastic Christmas special.
It was, Chris, right? Fantastic.
It was great.
The Heat Miser. Okay,
Yep.
go ahead.
But anyway, he's Mr. Heat or Mr. Miami. He is, it's fair to call him the greatest player in Miami Heat history. He won the most rings with 3, although does Haslam has 3 too, probably. But, obviously he was a main cog in all 3 and the main cog in the first one. And LeBron was the best player to ever play for Miami. No doubt about it. Just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the greatest player ever to play for the Lakers, but Mr. Laker, I think it's Magic Johnson. Some would say Kobe, but it's one of those two. And so 2 things can be true. Best player ever to put on a Heat uniform, LeBron James. Mr. Miami, best player that they, for that franchise, Dwyane Wade.
And then here you go. Remember, they temporarily, Chris, renamed Miami-Dade County to Miami-Wade County.
Yep.
Like that tells you about when you play a long plays and you were able to win. And remember, Dwyane Wade won without LeBron James. That's what makes it different.
And what was the finals MVP, too. Yeah.
Right. Even though he took 1,000,000 free throws, and I still got issues with that finals. But he did win, Chris. And I think that's what separates him. So what Pat Riley's saying is true. It's certain places. What hurts LeBron is that other than Cleveland where he was drafted, he came back and did win that championship. But you're always going to be like the Lakers. Can't put a statue because he won't wind up.
Well,
not
his number's
going
to be retired.
Right, but I'm saying a statue. Miami, already Michael Jordan's jersey's hanging up in Miami. You know what I mean? Like, so when you move around like that, it does take away a little bit from what you could. And that doesn't mean he's not a great player. I already told you he's number 2 on my list. But those are the things that people start to look at. And longevity plays in it when you're ready to honor somebody.
Yeah, what it does is when you bounce around on so many teams, and LeBron has kind of been on 4. Obviously, it's 3 because he went to the Cavs twice. But those were 2 completely different Cavs teams, and they feel completely different. You don't like the Lakers, it's just not even realistic to think he would win enough titles with the Lakers to become a Mr. Laker or something like that. He's in our opinion, the second best player ever. Some people's opinion, the greatest player ever. In any franchise he's played for, he has been the best player, in our view, to ever put on that uniform. And yet, the Lakers are more associated with other players, and not just Kobe and Magic, many other players. The Heat are more associated with at least Dwyane Wade. And now LeBron does have the Cavs. Some of that is because they've had such a pretty much a horrible to mediocre history. Like, they don't have any other players even close to his caliber. He also is from that area, Northeast Ohio. And I always said, Rob, and look, I don't know how it would have played out. Like, if LeBron had stayed in Cleveland, Rob, and never won a ring, he was better off doing what he did. He's better off doing what he did. Because there's no way you or me would be saying he's the second best player in the world. Nobody, he would be in the GOAT discussion.
No, winning matters. We talk about all the time. You got to win. Multiple. But also, if he would have stayed in Cleveland and won 2 or 3, Chris, without moving around like that, that would have been just fine too. Like, if he had a long career there, and he would have won. I don't doubt for 1 second that at some point he would have won, and he didn't trust himself, or he was afraid to stay there because, and the idea that no one would ever want to go play with him is just mind-boggling to me.
Well, that was my thought, not about nobody playing with him, but when he made his decision, I felt like, and I was one of the few that didn't kill him because, I knew he needed to win. But I did feel like, Rob, that he kind of sold himself short. Like, I definitely thought he was good enough to lead that team to championships. He didn't have any other real legit stars around him.
Right.
And had he done that he didn't have a Scottie Pippen in his first go-round in Cleveland. Now, Pippen is better than Kyrie, but you can argue that Kyrie was, that was like his Scottie Pippen, his second go-round. But had he won championships in Cleveland, Rob, and turned them into like an all-time great, had a dynasty, because that's the thing too. When you jump around, LeBron has never had a dynasty.
Right.
I don't think any of his teams were all-time great teams.
No.
Now, it depends on how deep you go, right?
And
how
Chris,
low you go, you could put that Miami team, but they're certainly not top 5. Like, they weren't a dynasty. We thought they were going to win more than 2 championships in 4 years.
To me, Chris,
he thought that too.
And you could honestly say, and I don't think this would be harsh, but that Miami getting there 4 times and not winning 3 in a row, or winning, maybe you don't win the first year, you just came together, but not winning 3 in a row where you would have been amongst the elite of the few teams that have ever won 3 in a row. You could look at it and be a little disappointed that they didn't win more, that they didn't win 4, or they didn't win 3. Had he put that team together and they won the first 4 years, Chris, it would have been wow.
Gosh.
Am I right? Wow.
If they won 4 in a row, yeah. I mean, that's a little GOAT fodder for you, even though he had obviously great players.
Now, that would be where you be like, you got great players, but they maximized it.
Right,
they won.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I just know, I remember like it was yesterday being on SportsCenter when everything went down, and I was on all day and night. And if you had told me, Rob, they're going to win 2 of the next 4 championships, I would have thought that was crazy. Now, I wouldn't have said 4 just because, I mean, that hasn't been done since Bill Russell. But I would have thought 3, Rob. I would have thought they were going to get at least 3.
The one that they lost to Dallas was just bad.
They lost that because LeBron just fell apart.
Right.
There's no, I mean, they were the better team. I'm sorry.
Right.
And I'm not trying to diss Dallas and Dirk. Dirk was phenomenal in that series, and he had really a great playoff player.
Chris, just admit you hate Dirk, okay? No, I'm just kidding.
But, Rob, the Heat was the better team. They were up 2-1. They thought, remember they made fun of Dirk? That's when the series turned, if I remember correctly. Dirk had a cough and a cold, and they making fun of him. LeBron and D-Wade coughing and all that.
Remember they were walking in the building coughing and carrying on, right?
Yep. And if LeBron just plays his game, they win that series. I mean, I'm sorry. And then now, would LeBron have learned the things he did? I talked to LeBron. I talked to his agent, Rich Paul. Like, they talked about him becoming a better man, looking in the mirror, becoming a better father, everything, better player, like better friend, like everything. And so maybe he needed that. Maybe he doesn't go on to do the great things he did after that if they win that series. Who knows? But that team, Rob, yeah, they left some on the table. There's no doubt about that. They left some meat on the bone.
They did, and that's the part that you look at, especially that one, Chris, because they should have won. And they would have won. Imagine you put together a team, you win 3 in a row, and even if you don't win that fourth one, you're up there with Shaq and Kobe, right? You're up there with Michael's 2 teams. Like, it'd be hard to say we don't belong, no matter how the team was put together.
No, they
put it together and we won.
Yeah,
right.
They'd be an all-time great team. That's right. And that's why, like, now, I mean, you mentioned Kobe, Shaq, you got to put them ahead of them. The Jordan teams, you got to put them ahead of them. I think Golden State, you got to put them ahead of him. Like the Showtime Lakers. Like, they were a great team. If you go low enough, yeah, all-time great, but not a dynasty. And again, that's part of jumping around is you're not there long enough. Because Rob, I'm glad he went back to Cleveland. And that championship he won with them is his biggest championship, Rob. Right. That's his most important championship. He would probably say that. You know, I don't know if he has ever talked about which one means more. Obviously, they all do, but that's clearly the biggest one. But if he had stayed in Miami, Rob, say 8 years and won 4 rings, maybe 5, I think that would be a dynasty.
No, that would have been if he won 4 out of 5.
Yeah, no, not 4 or 5 in say 8 years.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And remember, they did win the back-to-back.
Yeah, they would right. At least they won that. Where we always have I always have the problem with the Spurs that they never won back to back.